Causes of biodiversity depletion. Loss of species is a serious cause of concern for human survival. It has been observed that 79 species of mammals, 44 of birds, 15 of reptiles and 3 of amphibians are threatened. Nearly 1,500 species of plants are endangered in India. The threat to survival or loss may be caused in the following 3 ways. Direct ways: deforestation, hunting, poaching, commercial exploitation. Indirect ways: loss or modification of the natural habitats, introduction of exotic species, pollution, etc. Natural causes: climate change. Among these causes, habitat destruction and overexploitation are the main. Habitat natural home destruction may result from clearing and burning forests, draining and filling of wetlands, converting natural areas for agricultural or industrial uses, human settlements, mines, building of roads and other developmental projects. This way the natural habitats of organisms are changed or destroyed. These change either kill or force out many species from the area, causing disruption of interactions among the species. Fragmentation of large forest tracts, for example. The corridors affects the species occupying the deeper part of the forest and are first to disappear. Apart from the direct loss of species during the development activities, the new environment is unsuitable for the species to survive. Overexploitation reduces the size of the population of a species and may push it towards extinction. 2. Introduction of exotic species. Seeds catch on people's clothes. Mice, rats and birds hitchhike on ships. When such species land in new places, they breed extra fast, due to absence of any enemy, and often wipe out the native species already present there. Exotic species. New species entering geographical region may wipe out the native ones. A few examples are Paytm hysteropteros congress grass. A tropical American weed has invaded many of the vacant areas in cities, towns and villages in India, leading to removal of the local plants and the dependent animals. 2. Nile perch, an exotic predatory fish introduced into Lake Victoria, South Africa, threatened the entire ecosystem of the lake by eliminating several native species of the small cichlid fish that were endemic to this freshwater aquatic system. 3. Water hyacinth clogs lakes and riversides and threatens the survival of many aquatic species. This is common in Indian plains. 4. Lantana camara, an American weed, has invaded many forest lands in various parts of India and wiped out the native grass species. 3. Pollution. Air pollution. Acid rain destroy forests. Water pollution kills fishes and other aquatic plants and animals. Toxic and hazardous substances drained into waterways kill aquatic life. Oil spills kill coastal birds, plants and other marine animals. Plastic trash entangles wildlife. It is easy to see how pollution is a big threat to biodiversity. 4. Population growth and poverty. Over 6 billion people live on the earth. Each year, 90 million more people are added. All these people use natural resources for food, water, medicine, clothes, shelter and fuel. Need of the poor and often greed of the rich. Generate continuous pressure resulting in overexploitation and loss of biodiversity. The World Conservation Union IUCN, formerly known as International Union for the Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, IUCN has recognized 8 red list categories according to the conservation status of species. List category definition. Extinct taxon is extinct when there is no reasonable doubt that the last individual has died. Extinct in the wild. A taxon is extinct in the wild when exhaustive surveys in known and or expected habitats have failed to record an individual. Critically endangered. A taxon is critically endangered when it is facing high risk of extinction in the wild in immediate future. Pygmy hog endangered. A taxon is endangered when it is not critically endangered but is facing a very high risk of extinction in the wild in near future. Red panda. Vulnerable. A taxon is vulnerable when it is not critically endangered or endangered, but is facing high risk of extinction in the wild in the medium-term future. Black buck. Lower risk. A taxon is lower risk when it has been evaluated and does not satisfy the criteria for critically endangered, endangered or vulnerable. Data deficient. A taxon is data deficient when there is inadequate information to make any direct or indirect assessment of its risk of extinction. Not evaluated. A taxon is not evaluated when it has not yet been assessed against the above criteria. Status of threatened species. The IUCN Red List is an authentic source of information for this purpose. The 2000 Red List is the latest available. It uses a set of criteria relevant to all species and all regions of the world to evaluate the extinction risk of species. The 2000 Red List contains assessment of more than 18,000 species, 11,000 of which are threatened, 5,485 animals, and 5,611 plants. Out of these, 1,939 are listed as critically endangered, 925 animals, and 1,014 plants. According to the Red List, in India, 44 plant species are critically endangered, 113 endangered and 87 vulnerable. Amongst animals, 18 are critically endangered, 54 endangered and 143 vulnerable. Conservation strategies. Conservation efforts can be grouped into the following 2 categories. 1. In situ on-site conservation includes the protection of plants and animals within their natural habitats or in protected areas. Protected areas are land or sea dedicated to protect and maintain biodiversity. 2. Ex situ off-site conservation of plants and animals outside their natural habitats. These include botanical gardens, zoos, gene banks, seed bank, tissue culture and cryopreservation. In situ methods. By protection of habitat, the main strategy for conservation of species is the protection of habitats in representative ecosystems. Currently, India has 96 national parks, 500 wildlife sanctuaries, 13 biosphere reserves, 27 tiger reserves and 11 Elephant reserves covering an area of 15.67 million hectares, or 4.7% of the geographical area of the country. 21 wetlands, 30 mangrove areas, and 4 coral reef areas have been identified for intensive conservation and management purposes by the Ministry of Environment and Forests, Government of India. National parks and sanctuaries. The Jim Corbett Tiger Reserve at Arankal, Kanya National Park, Madhya Pradesh, Bandhavgarh National Park, Madhya Pradesh, Ranthambore National Park, Sawai Madhopur, G National Parks is in Gujarat. Wildlife lovers eager to see magnificent bird sanctuary at Bharatpur, Rajasthan, as it is the second habitat in the world that is visited by the Siberian cranes in winter, and it provides a vast breeding area for the native water birds. Great Indian bustard is found in the Indian deserts. In western Himalayas, one can see birds like Himalayan minnow, pheasant, western Trigobulum cocklass, white-crested Kalia pheasant, griffon vultures, lammergeiers, choughs, ravens. In the Andaman and Nicobar region, about 250 species and subspecies of birds are found, such as rare condom hornbill, Nicobar pigeon, and megapid, while the national parks and sanctuaries in South India, too, for example, Madamalai in Tamil Nadu and Bandipur Tiger Reserve and Nagahole National Park in Karnataka. Many national parks and sanctuaries have been established to preserve wildlife in their natural environment. Some of them are given below along with important species found there. Kaziranga Sanctuary, Assam, one-horned rhinoceros. Manas Sanctuary, Assam, wild buffaloes. Gir Forest, Gujarat, lions, chital, samba, wild bears. Kalamaru Bird Sanctuary and Andhra Pradesh, pelicans and marine birds. Dachigam Sanctuary, Jammu and Kashmir, Kashmir stags, Himalayan tahr, wild goats, sheep, antelopes. Bandipur Sanctuary, Karnataka, Indian bison, elephants, langurs. Pedia Sanctuary, Kerala, elephants, barking deer, sambar. Kanya National Park, Madhya Pradesh, tiger, leopards, wild dogs. Simipal National Park, Orissa, mangroves, marine turtles lay eggs. Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary, Rajasthan, ducks, herons. Corbett National Park, Uttarankal and tigers, barking deer, samba, wild bear, rhesus monkey. Jaladhara Sanctuary, West Bengal, rhinoceros. Biosphere reserves. These are representative parts of natural and cultural landscapes extending over large areas of terrestrial or coastal/marine ecosystems which are internationally recognized. Within UNESCO's Man and the Biosphere Program, 13 biodiversity-rich representative ecosystems, largely within the forest land total area N-53,000 square kilometers, have been designated as biosphere reserves in India. The concept of biosphere reserves (BR) was launched in 1975 as a part of UNESCO's Man and Biosphere Program, dealing with the conservation of ecosystems and the genetic material they contain. A biosphere reserve consists of core, buffer and Transition zones. The core zone is fully protected and natural area of the biosphere. Reserve least disturbed by human activities. It is legally protected ecosystem in which entry is not allowed except with permission for some special purpose. Destructive. Sampling for scientific investigations is prohibited. The buffer zone surrounds the core zone and is managed to accommodate a greater variety of resource use strategies, and research and educational activities. See the transition zone. The outermost part of the Biosphere Reserve is an area of active cooperation between the reserve management and the local people, wherein activities like settlements, cropping, forestry, recreation, and other economic that are in harmony with the conservation goals. Till date there were 553 biosphere reserves located in 107 countries. The main functions of the biosphere reserves are conservation, long-term conservation of representatives, landscapes and different types of ecosystems, along with all their species and genetic resources. Development encourages traditional resource use and promote economic development which is culturally, socially and ecologically sustainable. Scientific research, monitoring and education support conservation. Research, monitoring, education, and information exchange related to local, national and global environmental and conservation issues. 2 species-oriented projects. Certain species have been identified as needing a concerted and specifically directed protection effort. Project Tiger, Project Elephant, and Project Crocodile are examples of focusing on single species through conserving their habitats. Project Tiger, a success in species conservation. Tigers which were once abundant in Indian forests have been hunted. As a result, tiger population within the country declined drastically from estimate of 40,000 at the turn of century to 1200 by the 1970. This led to initiate the Project Tiger in 1973 with the objective of conserving and rescuing this species from extinction. In 2007, there were more than 40 Project Tiger wildlife reserves covering an area of 37,761 kilometers squared. Project Tiger helped to increase the population of these tigers from 1,200 in the 1970s to 3,500 in 1990s. However, a 2008 census held by Government of India revealed that the tiger population had dropped to 1,411. A total ban has been imposed on hunting of tigers and trading in tiger products at the national and international levels. Elaborate management plans are made for each of the tiger reserves for tiger habitat improvement and anti-poaching measures. Project Elephant. Project Elephant was launched in February 1992 to assist states having free-ranging populations of wild elephants to ensure long-term survival of identified viable populations of elephants in their natural habitats. The project is being implemented in 12 states viz. Andhra Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Jharkhand, Karnataka, Kerala, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Orissa, Tamil Nadu, Uttarakhand and West Bengal. Crocodile Breeding and Management Project. This project was started in 1976 with FAO and persistence to save 3 endangered crocodilian species, namely the freshwater crocodile, saltwater crocodile and the rare gharial. The project surveyed the crocodile habitats and facilitated their protection through declaration of sanctuaries and national parks, captive breeding and reintroduction or restocking programs involved careful collection of eggs from the wild. Thousands of crocodiles of 3 species have been reared at 16 centers and several of these have been released in the wild. 11 sanctuaries have been declared specially for crocodile protection, including the National Chambal Sanctuary in Madhya Pradesh, sacred forests and sacred lakes. These are small forest patches protected by tribal communities due to religious sanctity. These have been free from all disturbances. Sacred forests are located in several parts of India, that is Karnataka, Maharashtra, Kerala, Meghalaya. Similarly, several water bodies, for example, Kachapuri Lake in Sikkim, have been declared sacred by the people, leading to protection of aquatic flora and fauna. ESE conservation. Botanical gardens, zoos, etc. to complement in situ conservation efforts, ESE. Conservation is being undertaken through setting up botanic gardens, zoos, medicinal plant parks, etc. by various agencies. The Indian Botanical Garden in Hora, West Bengal is over 200 years old. Other important botanical gardens are in Ooty, Bangalore and Lucknow. The most recent one is the Botanical Garden of Indian Republic, established at Noida, near Delhi in April 2002. The main objectives of this garden are ESE conservation and propagation of important threatened plant species, serve as a center of excellence for conservation research and training, build public awareness through education on plant diversity and need for conservation. A number of zoos have been developed in the country. These zoological parks have been looked upon essentially as centers of education about animal species and recreation. They have also played an important role in the conservation of endangered animal species such as the Manipur Thamindia Sarasaldi and the white-winged wood duck Chirina scutulata. Notable successful examples of captive breeding are those of gangetic gharial, gavialized gangeticus, turtles and the white tiger. 2. Gene banks. ESE collection and preservation of genetic resources is done through gene banks and seed banks. The National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, NBPGR, New Delhi, preserves seeds of wild relatives of crop plants as well as cultivated varieties. The National Bureau of Animal Genetic Resources at Karnal, Haryana, maintains the genetic material for domesticated animals, and the National Bureau of Fish Genetic Resources, Lucknow, for fishes. 3. Cryopreservation. Freeze preservation is particularly useful for conserving vegetative propagated crops. Cryopreservation is the storage of material at ultra-low temperature of liquid nitrogen -1960 C and essentially involves suspension of all metabolic processes and activities. Cryopreservation has been successfully applied to meristems, zygotic and somatic embryos, pollen, protoplast cells and suspension cultures of a number of plant species. For conservation at molecular level, DNA level, in addition to above, germplasm conservation at molecular level is now feasible and attracting attention. Cloned DNA and material having DNA in its native state can all be used for genetic conservation. Furthermore, non-viable material representing valuable genotypes stored in gene banks can all be used as sources of DNA libraries from where a relevant gene or a combination of genes can be recovered. Legal measures market demand for some body parts like bones of tiger, rhino, horns, furs, ivory, skins, musk, peacock feathers, etc. results in killing the wild animals. The Wildlife Protection Act 1972 contained provisions for penalties or punishment to prevent poaching and illegal trade. India is also a signatory to the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora CITES. The convention entered into force on the 1st of July, 1975. In addition to this, India is also a signatory to Convention on Biological Diversity (CBD), which it signed on 29th December 1993 at Rio de Janeiro during the Earth Summit. The convention has three key objectives. 1. Conservation of biological diversity. 2. Sustainable use of biodiversity, and 3. Fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of the utilization of genetic resources.